And big game James Allen joins us here, as he always does, Friday mornings on 104.5 Team ESPN Radio. Big game, good morning.
Morning, Roger.
How are you?
Hanging in there. How you doing?
Yeah, getting ready, man. Not a bad night. Maybe in the 60-degree range tonight. Get a little break there because last night was freezing. I went over to watch my son junior Raider football practice at Pocket Park at 7:15, 7:30. Wow, was that cold. But tonight, get a little bit of a break in the weather. My question to you, big game, we at the Mighty 1-3, WNYT News Channel 13, we are looking for competitive early first-round playoff games. Do we have any of those tonight?
Well, you should have some, Roger. I mean, a lot of times this week is of the 3 playoff weeks can be spotty because you have a lot of 4-1 matchups where you get the 1 seed from one division playing the 4 seed from the other division, and sometimes those can be very lopsided. But I think you'll have some. You got 6 playoff games tonight. You got 6 tomorrow, and I think you'll have a few that will be competitive, and one of them will be in Class A tonight with Boston Spa and Averill Park.
Okay, well, go ahead. Let's start there. Give me your thoughts on that matchup that you think will be competitive tonight in the A's.
Well, I mean, Boston Spa. I mean, you look at after week 1, they played. They got blown out pretty decisively by Queensbury in week 1, but you look at what they've done since. They played a pretty competitive game against Burn Hills and lost by a couple of touchdowns, but very much in the game. They played 2 weeks ago, and they played Troy, and they lost 14-7. So Troy won the Capital Division and beat Averill Park last week. So they've certainly been a better team since week 1 and been more competitive and done a pretty good job putting themselves in the position they were to finish 4-2 in the Grosser Division, and behind the top 2, Burn Hills and with 2 and Queensbury at 1. So, if they can bring that kind of effort tonight, Averill Park's coming off a loss. So, it's a playoff game, and I like to think that they'll be able to bring a good showing tonight, and Averill Park certainly looking to right themselves after last week.
Big game, James Allen with us here on Big Board Sports 104.5, the Team ESPN Radio. Again, check him out on Twitter at TU Sidelines. James, before we go to tomorrow and what is a good game in Class B, Class C, Stillwater lost 1 game in the regular season, and I think they ended up as the 6th seed. Is that right? They're at Chatham tonight, a matchup of 2 6-1 teams. I had that on my radar as being a potentially good one.
Yeah, it should be, Chris. Stillwater did. They were 6-0 going into last week's title game against Holy Trinity in the Central, and they wound up losing, and that. It was an interesting game. The Warriors didn't have their best offensive weapon, didn't play, Mason Seymour, but they held Holy Trinity to 7 yards offense in the first half, and they ran wild between Luke Lescall and James Galarno. Between the two of them, they ran for over 400 yards, and they still didn't win the game. So, and their reward is dropping 4 seeds. 4 seeds down the rung, going from the 2 seed potentially. They would have probably been the same as Holy Trinity, which would have been the number 2 seed, and then they drop all the way down to 6, and then they get to go on the road. But interestingly enough, Chatham was also undefeated going into last week. They played out of section against a Class D team from Section 4 and wound up losing. So Chatham's not exactly coming in any better than Stillwater is. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. Certainly from Stillwater's perspective, they know if they want a rematch with Holy Trinity, potentially in the semifinals, they're going to have to win this game. And both these programs are seeking a first title. So certainly a pretty good matchup when you think about a quarterfinal game and you got 2 6-1 teams playing in the first round. It's a pretty good matchup.
How about the AA ranks? Final week of the regular season there was Saratoga at Shenendehowa. That is just a rival game. No matter what's going on, year in, year out, that is a rival and will produce a very big crowd at Shenendehowa, no doubt, on a great night for high school football. Both teams, big game, are 6-1 and tied for second place.
Yeah, it's an interesting matchup in the sense that obviously it's a rivalry, Roger, and they are. They're both 6-1. They're both playing but potentially, they're playing for the home game for next week. That's it. It's a rivalry game, so you think there's going to be so much on the line, but I don't know. I don't know how this is going to play out. I mean, how hard are these teams really going to be going at each other? How much are Terry Jones and Brian Clausen going to show each other? Because guess what? No matter who wins this game, they play again next week, the playoffs, in the semifinals. So, I'm sure both team programs want to have a home game for the semifinals, but it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, are you really going to empty the tank and show everything you've got in 1 week because you're going to be playing the same opponent next week? So it's a very interesting dynamic how this one's going to play. Certainly, I think there's going to be a lot of interest in it, and certainly going to be good to see who winds up getting the home game next week. But I'm interested to see how each one approaches this game, and if one gets ahead of the other one, how much are they really going to be going at it to show too much for next week? That's going to be interesting.
James, the Class B playoff matchup tomorrow that I think a lot of people will be interested in is Chalmont-Schuylerville. Now, they did meet in the regular season, and Schuylerville had its way, and really the Black Horses look like a different team than from that Week 1 matchup with Glens Falls. Chalmont on the road after they lost Tuesday night. How do you see that matchup?
The only thing I can say, Chris, is that, to me, it all comes down to which Chalmont team shows up. That game in Week 5 wound up being 56-34, but it was a very competitive game. Chalmont was ahead in the third quarter. They certainly had a lot of offense that day. That was their first loss, but they've lost 2 since, and they go into that matchup losing 3 games, and including losing 2 games within the last 5 days, where they lost Friday last week against Cobleskill on a Jonathan Bacati 44-yard field goal, and then losing on Tuesday on their home turf and get blown out by Hudson. So there's certainly personnel there that you'd like to think that will be competitive in a game against Schuylerville, but I'm interested to see what their psyche is right now. They didn't equate themselves very, very well in the second half against Hudson, and got blown off their own field. And now they got to go up and play the same team that they lost to in the semifinals last year, a team they haven't beaten in 5 games since 2014. Last time they won, they beat them and got to the Carrier Dome, but it hasn't been the same. Chalmont hasn't been able to get out of the semifinals, and if they don't get out of this game, they won't even get out of the quarterfinals. And like you said, Schuylerville has played they're a different team. I wrote a story about them today in the paper.
Yep.
They've switched their lineup, their offensive and some of their defensive personnel around from the first 2 games of the season when they lost to Glens Falls in Hayward Park, and they're a different team. Paul Harshbarger moved from slot back into the fullback position that Derek Wilson played for the last couple of years, and his numbers have taken off. And Justin Cart was a receiver for him and is an outstanding lacrosse player. They moved him into the slot back position. He's had monster numbers, averaging over 10 yards a carry. And Jacob Vanderhoof was the fullback, and now he's moved out to a slot back position, and his numbers have taken off. Their offensive line's doing great, and defensively they've righted themselves, and they're averaging 51 points since week 2. So I think if Chalmont doesn't bring their best, it could get very ugly Saturday night up in Schuylerville.
Yep, Chalmont, Schuylerville, 7 p.m. on Saturday night. Schuylerville winning 56-34 in the regular season. We just heard big game. Tell you why that could be a whole lot closer tomorrow night. Big game. Thanks for a few minutes. As always in the Friday show, enjoy the action tonight, my friend. We'll talk to you next week.
That was good, Roger.